So good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to this workshop on the European Innovation Council programs. My name is David Chiaramonti, I'm Vice Director for International Affairs, and I'm very pleased to welcome these very relevant speakers today to discuss about the program and the projects. But first, before starting, I wish to give the floor to our Rector of Politecnico di Torino, Professor Guido Saracco, for a welcome speech.
Yeah, shortly, because we are a bit late. Welcome to the Politecnico di Torino. That is the first technical school that was launched in 1859. That was a time where Italy was not even a country. But we have been serving the Industrial Revolution by educating engineers and architects for such a long time in a rather standard way. Strong hard sciences at the background, and then building up models and engineering techniques. But now everything is changing. Our society requires much more insight in social and human sciences that we are providing to our engineers with, because they need to understand the problems, the complex problems they have to solve with the technologies, and they need to be creative and innovative. And we need to transfer this innovation to companies and create new startups. This is really a sort of missing link in many contexts. And this is a playground where universities must now take a role in a society that requires knowledge for everything, and with the knowledge that is ever changing. For this reason, we are looking to the initiative of the newborn European Innovation Council with a lot of expectation. As a country, you know, Italy is not really, and you will hear it from the speakers, in the pole position, in the front end of Europe, and we need to do a lot. But our university, for instance, is doing a lot to serve this required evolution, because we need to bring innovation to our companies, and for this reason, we are there with many initiatives in this very campus. If you have the opportunity to stay a bit more, then we might show you what we are doing to push this. And with the first results coming up, and I was congratulating David Chiaramonti because he was just bringing one of the few success stories that we have in this context. But we are going to build upon that and start the chain reaction that is going to bring our country to the front end of Europe, where countries like France, Germany, and Spain are already. I'm confident that technical universities like ours are going to be initiating a new story for our country and spread out this new dimension that belongs to the so-called third mission of universities to the rest of the Italian universities. Thank you very much, and I wish you success for this meeting that is highly populated by a large audience, and this is I'm very proud of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Professor Saracco for being here and in opening the workshop. I will keep just a few minutes just to explain how the idea of this workshop came. Actually, I personally find the European Innovation Council a very interesting institution for the researcher, with very strong connection with companies, activities, and the financing area. It's quite different from the more, let's say, traditional for us as researchers, H2020 or Horizon Europe projects. That's very peculiar, and I think it can very well fit to polytechnics schools for that reason. So we've been very glad to have the director of the European Innovation Council here with us, participating to the workshop and introducing the program, as well as Professor Profumo, which is member of the board, and other very relevant speakers like Apre, Stefania Marassi, Bocconi University from Milan, Andrea Fosfori, and very important, a program manager that can explain more in details how the projects run, how these are conceived, evaluated, and operated. And there will be time for a Q&A at the end of the day. And finally, we're very thankful to Dr. Liberali for also being here to carry out the conclusion of the workshop and to deliver the view where we should go as a country in that respect. So I don't want to go further, and I'm very pleased to invite Dr. Jean-David Malo, which is the director of EIC, to take the floor by remote for his case, and deliver his speech and his presentation. So, Jean-David, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So no, it's a great pleasure for me to be with you this afternoon, even if it's only virtually, but I promised to Professor Profumo that I will come to Torino soon. And the EIC itself will come to Torino in the coming months. So I will, in 20 minutes, I will try to be as short as possible, present you what is the European Innovation Council. I will start and share my screen in a second. And you will just confirm me that you see my slides.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay? Perfect. So what is the European Innovation Council in a nutshell? So it's nothing else than the most ambitious innovation initiative ever at EU level. So you know that the European Parliament and the Council, in the context of Horizon Europe, has provided not less than 10 billion euro of budget for this program, which has the ambition to identify, develop, and scale up game-changing technologies, disruptive innovation in Europe. Maybe at this stage, a few words in introduction on why this program has been introduced and why it has been tested already in 2019-2020, even before its fully fledged shaping in Horizon Europe. We took stock at the EU level in the middle of the 2010s of the situation of the innovation ecosystem in Europe. And the main conclusion were the following. First, we remain at EU level leaders at world level in terms of generation of knowledge. And this is particularly illustrated by the attractivity of our university, the number of publications that are coming from European top researchers in top journals, the number of prizes like Nobel Prize or Fields Medals that are going to European researchers. But in the same time, we remain relatively weak in two particular gaps. First, capacity to move from lab to fab, so the capacity to turn knowledge into innovation process or innovation or innovative products. And second, we remain also relatively weak, not in our capacity to create new business, because we are able to create new startups, in particular new deep tech startups. But we are relatively weak in comparison to our main competitors in accompanying them, in fact, in their growth. And this is particularly illustrated by the number of unicorns that you can find in the world today, while we were able, for example, in 2019, to create more startups than the United States. So the ambition of the EIC is in a single program to cover the whole journey by supporting first the emergence of technologies that has the potential to create breakthrough innovation. So in other words, to continue to invest where we are strong, but to give more means, in fact, to those that are able to elaborate this new technology. And this is the purpose of one of our programs, on which I will come back in a minute, which is called the Pathfinder, to tackle, secondly, the gap, the first gap that I just mentioned, the move from lab to fab with transition activities, and then to tackle the second gap, with the third program, which is the accelerator, in order to provide the necessary means for promising innovative startup SMEs and scale up to scale up quickly. This makes the EIC a very unique program because you can find, in fact, these different type of support in different programs all over the world. For example, you can find the advanced research support in ARPA-E or in DARPA in the US, but you are missing then the link to the support to the scale-up. So this makes the EIC very unique, and indeed, the EIC is also very unique by this particularities that he is investing directly in the capital of companies, the startups and SMEs that have the potential to scale up quickly and that are technology driven. And we have the ambition with the work programs that we have adopted recently to bring this specific means to these companies. Of course, it will not be implemented in isolation. It is another instrument within the existing European innovation ecosystem. This is the reason why it's very important that we have a partnership, first of all, of course, at EU level with the EIT, the ERC, and of course, the brother program of the innovative pillar of Horizon Europe, the European Innovation Ecosystem Program, but also with a number of other initiatives, in particular at national level. This took place in reality, but not in a structured way in the context of the pilot. A number of countries, in fact, have taken this kind of decision to accompany, in fact, the emergence of the EIC. And certainly this explains some of their results in the context of the pilot or in the context of the first year of implementation of the EIC under Horizon Europe, in particular in the context of the accelerator. So our first program first work program was adopted in early 2021. It was together with the European Research Council, the first program implemented and launched in 2021 with a very impressive budget of 1.5 billion euro. But the second work program is even bigger with 1.7 billion euro and is already running. I will come back to this in a second. And as you know, this world program is implemented by the newly created executive agencies, the European Innovation Council and Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise Executive Agency, with a very bizarre acronym, ESMIA, but which is an executive agency which is dealing with each of the innovation-related part of the current multi-financial framework, or in other words, the budget of the Union for 2021-2027, which are centrally managed. So in a nutshell, because the time is too short to enter into details, the main schemes that we are implementing in the context of the EIC are first the Pathfinder, where mainly we are supporting early stage research on breakthrough technologies. This is what makes the difference with the European Research Council, and where we are providing to consortia grants in average of up to 3 to 4 million euro. It is a program which is building on the future emerging technology in its top-down and bottom-up approach, open and proactive approach, but with a novelty, which is that within the implementation, thanks to the key role played by program manager, and you will have one of our program manager that will intervene this afternoon, we are accompanying, in fact, this project in order to create interrelation with other projects in a portfolio approach, but also to create links with other actors of the innovation ecosystem and to, as far as possible, use the knowledge that is generated, not only for the purpose of publications that remain, of course, a fully relevant output of this kind of project, but also with the objective to create the path for the use of this knowledge. Of course, the transition activity, which is the second program, the second scheme, which is provided under the EIC, has even more the objective to create this path between the generation of knowledge and the use of this knowledge, and has a purpose to provide, in fact, support to technology maturation from proofs of concept to validation, and also to help, in fact, promoters of this use to be ready for business and market introduction. And there we are also providing to small consortia, or sometimes also to mono-beneficiaries, grants that can reach a maximum of 2.5 million euro. Last but not least, in terms of volume, the most important program, which represents more or less 2/3 of our effort, is the accelerator, which has the purpose to support mono-beneficiaries, namely startup SMEs, in very rare case small mid-caps, but up to now we never supported small mid-caps. I mean, it's really a program which is done for startups and SMEs, which are at the level, in terms of technology readiness level, TRL 5, TRL 6, could be later, but it started at this level of TRL, and which has the purpose, in fact, to develop their technology and to scale up. And there, of course, the type of support is taking a different form. It's not only like we did it in the past with, for example, the SM instrument, a support via grant of up to 2.5 million euro, but it's also the possibility to have a means in terms of capital, so equity or equity-like support, where we are investing directly in the capital of companies with the purpose to have a crowding in effect, not a crowding out effect, and to attract other investors, either immediately or in, for example, the second level of our installments of our equity support. And this equity support can reach normally up to 15 million euro on our side, but in the context of the second work program that we have adopted in February this year, we will test, and I will come back to this in a second, the possibility for a limited number of projects of bigger support on our side. Of course, providing financial means is absolutely essential, but is not sufficient. I mean, it's very important also to accompany our beneficiaries and to make their innovation environment more friendly. So it's very important to accompany them with a number of business acceleration services. So the 3 types of schemes that we are supporting, in fact, are accompanied with possibility of business acceleration services for our awardees. It means access to coaching, to mentoring, to a number of trainings that are offered. It means also the possibility to access a number of key actors of the innovation ecosystem, be it large corporates, be it co-investors, be it public or private procurers, in order to help them, in fact, to bring even quicker their new technologies, their innovation on the market, and to develop their business. which means that it is also important to create link with other innovation ecosystem actors and peers, including not only the final end users or the leaders of market, but also intermediaries, such as IPR desk, UIPO, local incubators, but also other actors that could help them, which are also providing other services. I'm thinking in particular, for example, of the EIT Kicks. And as a result, they have access, in fact, to our community platform where they can establish this kind of partnership and collaboration. Now, usually, and it's quite normal because the bulk of the budget and the bulk of the novelties, in fact, of the EIC is mainly on the accelerator part, so mainly focusing on startup and SMEs. I mean, people are always often forgetting that the EIC is not only for startup and SMEs. So we thought important in this short introduction to recall that you have a lot also for academia in the EIC, and notably the Pathfinder. I mean, the Pathfinder consortia that we are supporting are mainly composed in reality from academic researchers, be it universities, technical universities, polytechnical or research organization. And they are mainly, in fact, on applied oriented research project. And of course, this project are contributing a lot to research, but also to education missions that you could have also in your institution. We have seen in the result of our pilot that a lot of the projects that we have supported have provided both publication results in very top journals in the context of the Pathfinder, and in the same time, for the same type of project, for other type of results, some innovative products that have been launched and that ultimately have been used by other actors, or sometimes have created spin-outs or spin-off within universities. So I'd like to insist on this because this is also a dimension which is often forgotten. The Pathfinder, together with the transition, are representing a bit less than a third of our budget, which represent a very high budget over the period superior to 3 billion euro. So our work programs are, of course, the result of an adoption by our program committee, I mean member states, in the context of the comitology, and Raffaele Liberali, which is with us today, knows this even better than me, due to his long experience on both sides of the table. But the particularity of the EIC is that we are also advised by a board which we have tested already in the pilot, but that we have now officially established at the end of last year, just before the first EIC summit. It's a board for a duration of 2 years, which has currently as a chair Mark Ferguson, but which will be chaired by the end of this year by a newly appointed EIC president that we are currently identifying following a call or expression of interest where we have received more than 83 candidatures. So the process of identification is running. And this board is really there to advise us on our strategy, on as a consequence of this strategy, the content of the work program, including also on the way we are implementing it, but also is there to contribute more broadly to the work which is carried out at the level of the Commission, together with member states, on the innovation policy of the EU. So this is why it is composed of 20 different people coming from different countries all over Europe with a very diverse but very complementary background. Some of them are entrepreneurs of large corporate or startups or unicorns. Some are investors, some are researchers, some are members of innovation ecosystems, some had also a political career. Just to have this full picture, this full coverage, in fact, of what is supposed to be covered by the EIC, and I'm very pleased in particular to have Professor Profumo being a part of this board. So this board already met just a few days after its appointment in the 26th of November. It already met several times since then. The next meeting will take place by the end of this month. And it's already contributing, in fact, not only to the work program, what he did for the second work program in February, but also on the preparation, in fact, of the next framework, on the next work program, but also on the preparation of a number of other strategic domains. Now, I'd like to say a few words on the Italian participation in 2021. And I have noted the introduction of Rector Saracco a few seconds ago. The result of Italy are not bad in the Pathfinder report. On the Pathfinder report, as you can see it in this slide, the results are, on the contrary, rather good in terms of number of proposals retained for funding, as you can see it here. But where indeed there is a challenge, it's on the accelerator part. So the part which is mainly dedicated to startup and SMEs, where you have here the result of the first two cutoff. I had not, unfortunately, the possibility to add for the time being the level of submission in the first cutoff of 2022, which closed already on the 23rd of March. But there again, the participation of Italy is very high. It's more on the final results that certainly we should discuss together how we could increase this result. And honestly, I do not believe that the situation is dramatic. It's certainly not the case. The potential is there. It's more a question of better identifying the company which are the most fitting for purpose with the accelerator, which is not the perfect continuity of what was the SM instrument in the past, which is something different, and which explain maybe a part of the current results that are not dramatic, I repeat, but that could certainly be improved looking at the potential and the characteristic of the Italian economy. Now, in conclusion, what are the main calls that are open in 2022, and a few words on the main novelty. So the three main schemes are already open, of course, for submission. So for the accelerator, as I told you, which is permanently open, and where we are dedicating a bit more than 1.15 billion euro for this year. Globally, a bit more on the bottom-up approach, but also quite substantive part on the challenge-based approach, the top-down approach, especially, of course, focusing on open strategic autonomy and the Fit for 55. We have this year 3 calls, 3 cutoff, but you have the possibility to submit a short proposal at any time, which, if you are successful, give you the possibility to come to one of the 3 cutoffs that are identified here. The level of participation in the first cutoff, which is already closed, is very similar to the ones that we had in the context of the first year, with a bit less than 1,100 proposals submitted in step 2. For the Pathfinder, we have two main calls. One for the bottom-up approach, which has a deadline in around 1 month now, the 4th of May, with a budget of 183 million euro. And for the challenges, there it's will be a deadline in the fall of the year, where the challenges that has been identified are listed here on the left of your screen. I will not enter into the details, but just to tell you that this topic are the result of the work that has been done by a number of actors, including the program managers of the EIC, but also taking into account an assessment of the state of the art coming from various actors within the Commission, but also from the ground with a group of experts. Now, on the transition, there also you have the possibility to apply anytime, but with two cutoff, as you can see, and there again with a balance between the top-down and the bottom-up approach. Of course, the challenges are of a different nature because they are more focused on topics where indeed we believe regarding the state of the art and looking at the portfolio also of projects that we have are making sense in order to make this move from lab to fab. Allow me to conclude by insisting in particular on three main novelties in our work program 2022, because on top of the main schemes that I just recalled you, we have a number of other actions. I will not list all of them because we have something like a bit more than 12 or 13 in 2022. But one of the most important one is the EIC Scale Up 100 initiative, where we would like to support a consortium of actors covering the 27 member states and of course associated countries, which will have the objective to identify 100 promising deep tech EU companies across Europe that have the greatest potential to become unicorns and to bring them additional support in order to help them in this scale-up journey. So this call is with a deadline in October, but we will make a specific event in the coming weeks in order to present it. But this is something where we would like indeed to set up a very strong consortium that will be ready to be at the service of these startups. I mentioned already the possibility on a limited scope of equity investment above 15 million. It's a pilot that we will test, mainly for companies that are developing technologies that are of strategic European interest. We will learn about it. We will test it in order to verify if indeed what we learned from the pilot and from the first year of implementation in the Horizon Europe is a relatively robust rationale in order to allow this possibility to go beyond the 15 million euros that we have tested during the pilot. We do believe it is the case, but it's important to test it to see if indeed it makes a lot of sense or not. And last but not least, as I said, the EIC accelerator has clearly the purpose to be, of course, in line with the policy objective of the Union, and one of it being, of course, the Fit for 55 goal in reduction of carbon emission, but also on the support to the open strategic autonomy of the Union, which can be illustrated, in fact, by the by the topics that have been identified in the renewed industry communication of the Commission in technologies such as quantum or medical technologies. And it's not a surprise in this context that very likely in 2023, as already announced in the context of the recent communication of the Commission on the CHIPS Act, the EIC will also contribute to the support of the implementation of the CHIPS Act objective regarding semiconductors. So I'm stopping here, not to be too long, but we thought with the organizers that I'd like to thank again for the opportunity of this event. That it was important as an introduction to give you again an overview of what are the main objectives of the EIC, and in particular what is proposed in the context of the work program 2022. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malo. That was extremely interesting, and there's a lot of food for discussion. As I said, there will be a Q&A session at the end. I'm not sure if you will be able to stay with us so long. In case we will address the questions with the other panelists and also the program manager from EIC. Would it be okay? Okay. Next presentation is from Professor Profumo about EIC, ERC, and financing innovation. In the meantime, you take the floor. I wish to thank the ARI, the research department of Polytechnic of Turin, led by Dottoressa Fulci, Isabella, in particular Isabella Sousa, and all the team for supporting us in the preparation of this work. It was quite challenging. I'm glad to inform you we have almost 200 people connected in this moment, in addition to the people in the room, which is quite fine. Our goal was to have a national event to inform colleagues about the program. So, Professor Profumo, please.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Dr. Malo, for your time. I know that you are very busy, but you are always so kind in relation to our country. Thank you. What I would like to do is something in addition to what Dr. Malo said, and maybe I could structure the agenda in this way. The first, the rationale for EIC. The second point is EIC in full swing, some results and lessons learned. The third point is Compagnia di San Paolo, that, as you know, is one of the largest foundations in Europe as an ecosystem developer for innovation. And the last point is connecting EIC to the Torino ecosystem of innovation. First of all, maybe some of you remember that since 2007, the President Barroso was launching one research related to the investment of research in Europe. And the results was very good in terms of reputation for researchers in Europe in comparison to US and Chinese and Korean and Japanese researchers. And the results was really good from this point. And if we look from the slides that I'm presenting, we have in particular three different attentions. First of all, is the PhD graduates. As you can see, in Europe, we have much more in terms of percentage of graduates, PhD graduates in relation to US and China. The same is from the number of researchers that we have in this part of the world related to US and China. And in the third column, where we have the papers published, we have almost the same number, but we have to remember that China has a population that is almost 3 times Europe, and US and Europe, they have almost the same. It's not really the same because we have something more. Then in general, we can say that the investment of European Commission in research did a quite a good job, and this was not surprising for us. But in the meantime, if we look at the next step, what happened to the result of knowledge that is the results of research in terms of businesses? And this means in terms of innovation that could go to the market. And in this case, we can see that Europe is still behind. If we look in the first column, we have the deep tech entrepreneurship. And as we can see, Europe is very lag in relation to US and China first. And also for the platform or the economy, we have almost the same situation where we can see that the US is on the top of this. And also for the successful startup, as we can see that Europe is still very in the back from this side. Then what happened really? The final decision of the President Barroso was to launch one innovation program in Europe, starting first with the European innovation technology, and then with the EIC. But the question is why we need the EIC. And the reason is this one. What we have from the lab we have the capitalization of excellence in scientific research across Europe. And in the other side, we have the market. And the market means improve access in risk capital for market creating innovation. But in some way, we have a not link between what we call the lab dimension and the market dimension. And the reason that that Europe launched EIC policy rationale was really to boost European innovation and to have this capacity of link for what we have in the lab and what we can have in the business side. If we look at the EIC portfolio, is quite interesting. Here we have just some summary related to three big fields. The first one, as you can see, is for the industry. The second one is related to the green, and the third one is related to the health. And we can see that if we are just in the beginning, because as Malo said, we had this pilot for 2 years, and then we have now this second round of the board of EIC. But in both for Pathfinder and for accelerators, the situation in Europe is growing quite fast, and you can see from this chart. In the meantime, if we look back since the year 2014, we can see that the investment in terms of funds related to innovation is started from 2.7 million, means zero, in the year 2014. And in the year 2021, we have more than 9.5 billion of investment in innovation. And this is quite impressive, and you understand the efforts that Europe is doing right now. And at the Commission level, they say, okay, we did a great job from the research point of view. We needed to do something in the same line or better in the innovation side. Just a few numbers related to what happened with the EIC. As you can see, we have 5,500 companies in the portfolio. In the meantime, we have more than 50% of startup. This means a company with less than 5 years. And then we have a 9.6 billion overall follow-up funding. This is a great number, and there is no program around the world related to innovation that is aligned to what Europe is doing this time. In the meantime, we have 8 mega rounds with more than 100 million euro. And then we have 31 IPO in the portfolio and 96 acquisition in the portfolio. And looking the excellence that we can have, we have 2 unicorns already. This means company with a value more than 1 billion. We have 91 what we call centauros. This means a company with more than 100 million in evaluation and about 50 billion in terms of portfolio valuation, the total one. This means that as a first result, we have more than 140 investment in the last few years, 637 million euro that has been already approved in terms of funding for the startup, and the number is to pair is this additional investment by private investors. As you can see also, if we are just in the beginning, but the results is quite good. One of the big points that we have in Europe, and could be a good challenge to really put on the table, is that we have, in one side, research, ERC mainly, and the other side, we have EIC. This means Innovation Council. If we can really embrace both of them, and that we can use the results of ERC as the starting point for the EIC, could be a great point of starting. If you look, for example, in this example, for the first EIC transition call that was in the year 2021, we had 292 candidates. This was the submitted proposals. And the eligible proposal, 231, and the proposal with the results was 87, but the funded proposal was 42, and the successful business ventures is on the way. We don't know yet how many of these startups they could be successful in the future. But if we split the 42 funded proposal, we can see that 25 funded proposals are originated by ERC, and the other 17 are funded through FET Open. This means that we have what we can call the good origination system in Europe. And this means that we are in the good way just to go on to this alignment. The next step is how we can really improve the possibility to keep aligned the ERC results with the EIC origination. First of all, we needed to have a better analysis of the portfolio ERC. This means that we needed to go deeper inside the ERC results to understand from this portfolio if there are some results, some good origination that can be useful for the EIC. The second one is what we needed to have people from ERC and people from EIC, that they can sit in a room like this one. This means to have what we can call the workshops, where we have both of them. Because one of the points is to try to create a kind of link between the ERC as an originator and EIC. And this seems to be a good way to do it on this way. But we can do something more. What we can do is visiting innovation fellowships. This means that we can have people coming from the EIC in ERC project. This means, or vice versa. This means that there is a possibility just to link ERC and the EIC. Before that, we have the link in the field. And finally, but really important, is the theme of women in innovation and in science. We know that the number of women is increasing, but we needed to really push more and more in this direction. Then the idea is to really keep together ERC and the EIC and to try to work step by step in order to really increase to what could be the final results. And we remember that in this school for a long time we had a very small number of ERC grant. But since maybe 5 or 6 years, we improved the number of ERC because we really dedicate money and we dedicated time in order to improve the quality of ERC proposal coming from this school. That we needed to do something really similar also for EIC. And you know, we are in quite good shape, and really we can do. And what I want to do now is to show that the situation is quite good related to the EIC. I remember that maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I went to visit Dr. Malo in Brussels, and he was talking about the future for EIC, and I was talking about what we already have in Torino. And he was really surprised. He said, look, in reality, we are really aligned on what we want to do with the EIC and what you are doing already with the EIC. Then from the EIC dimension, looking for the year 2022 to 2023 and 24, what is interesting is that more 90% of ERC portfolio company is addressing now to ESG. And we know that this is a very, very important and will be more important also for the future. Then more than 35% of EIC portfolio companies led by women. And also in the school, we have several companies that are led by ladies and researchers, women researchers. And this is a good starting point for us. And the last is that we have between 3 per and 5 per in terms of crowding in of co-investment and follow-up investment. This means that we are quite in good shape. What is the EIC big picture? As you remember, Dr. Malo was presenting that we have the 3 stages. The first stage is Pathfinder, the second stage is transition, and the third stage is accelerator to go to the market. And for each of this stage, we have a different level of a TRL. This means that it's really interesting that we can in some way formalize this aspect from this point of view. And what we have in Torino? In Torino, as you know, we have a campus on the back of the engineering campus that here is more than 100,000 square meters, where that was built in the year 2006, 2007, and where we have in the same campus, in one side the school, this means with the lab, with the classroom, with the people that they moved, with the students, and in the other side we have companies. We have more than 50 companies in the same campus. And in addition, we have incubators, we have accelerators. This means that we have all the elements that are the principle of EIC. And this is quite a good point to start. Let me show you that in addition, we are really aligned with our SDG strategy in the sense we have a strong interest for the investment in human capital. For the employment, there is a stress in order to have a high quality people that can be employed by our companies. There is a very strong competitiveness inside the and around what we have around the school. And then there is a strong territorial development related to innovation and research. And the last one is there is always a major interest in sustainability. In our ecosystem development model, we have three big points that are characterizing this area in north of Italy. First of all, we have a patient capital. Compagnia di San Paolo is a foundation that has a strong assets. The patrimonio is more than 8 billion, and is really a patient investor. The second point, Compagnia di San Paolo was built in the year 1563, and is really a philanthropic mindset foundation, in the sense that we can combine patient capital and the philanthropic mindset. And the last point is related to the fact that we have a multidisciplinary skills, the sense that we can put in hybrid way different skills coming from different areas. Then if we look at our journey, this means the journey of Torino, of the Politecnico, and what we have around this, from the lab to the market, we find that we are perfectly aligned with EIC ideas, in the sense that we have the knowledge development, this means the pathfinder, then we have the technological development, this means transition, and then we have the business development, this means accelerator and mindset. But in addition, we don't have only the model, but we have also the inside each of these areas, active actors that really work on this alignment. For example, for the Pathfinder, we have the venture building, and we have the research-related grant making. For the transition, we have the technological transfer, the applied research, the startup incubators, and the social impact grant making. And for the market, we have the social impact investing, the VC funds, and the early stage tech investing. This means that what the EIC is imagining for the future in Torino is already in place. And for example, for the first incubator was set up in 1999. This means that we have a long history, and we have also a long history of mistakes that we can put on the table also for other competitors on our side. Then, in the meantime, we have also a constellation of like-minded partners. This means that we are not alone. We have this big campus. In the campus, we have all the actors that I have said before. But in terms of actors, what we have? We have 5 foundations. First of all, the Fondazione Cassa di Risparmio di Torino. The second one is Fondazione Cassa di Risparmio di Cuneo. Then we have Fondazione Cariplo. Then we have Fondazione CDP. And then we have Fondazione Agnelli, all together with Compagnia di San Paolo. Then the universities. Compagnia di San Paolo has a relation with the 5 universities. Politecnico di Torino, Università di Torino, Università del Piemonte Orientale, Università di Genova, and Università Federico II di Napoli. Then we have public institutions. This means Regione Piemonte in one side, Comune di Torino in the other side, e Camera di Commercio. Then we have a government agency. This means that we have ESA in one side and ASI, the Italian Space Agency. Then we have investor NGPs. This means Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, but we have Exor, Equiter, Lifty, Neva, SGR, Euroxa. Then we have Oltre, then we have a Sofinova, then we have a United Ventures. And finally, what do we have? Incubators. This means I3P, I2I, 3T, then we have a social fair. We have also the accelerator. In particular, we have a Techstar, and pretty soon we will have a digital magic in addition of this. And then we have a corporate, big corporation like Intesa San Paolo, ERI, they also, Inwit, Cisco. And finally, we have some of others companies that are moving around to what we have. You understand when I'm saying that we have a quite nice ecosystem where we have all the actors, not just on the papers, but are actors that they work since a long number of years all together. Just to give you an idea, last year we had more than 200 new startups that have been created first, but have been funded, and they work all together in this ecosystem. Finally, I want to say that just a few days ago, Compagnia di San Paolo signed an agreement for 3 years, agreement for put together 5 universities, as I said, Politecnico di Torino, University of Torino, Università di Genova, Università Piemonte Orientale e Università Federico II of Naples. And the idea is to fund innovation activities inside each university. This means start from proof of concept and going on to related to the different activities of EIC. This means that through this agreement, we can really push our universities in order to become more and more originators related to this big project that is the EIC in Europe. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Profumo. Many interesting points, from cross-fertilization of EIC and ERC to these impressive figures. So, okay, now it's my pleasure to give the floor to Stefania Marassi, which represents the EIC team aprile. She's the second speaker, virtual by distance. aprile is the Agency for the Promotion of the European Research. So, Stefania, if you can take the lead and share your screen. The mic is muted. Or?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now strong and well. Thanks.
Okay. Can you see my presentation? Just
yep. Yes.
To be sure. Yes. Thanks. Thank you very much for the invitation to all the organizer. I'm Stefania Marassi. I'm a member of the competence team in aprile. I just want to show you my team. In particular, Marta Calderaro and Stephen Frigerio are the national contact point for the European Innovation Council. Today, I just give you a brief presentation of the data about the participation of Italy in these 3 instruments, in these 3 schemes, Pathfinder, Transition, and Accelerator. As you have heard, this instrument represents 3 different technological maturity levels. Pathfinder is between 1 and 3, Transition between 4 and 7, Accelerator is up to TRL 6. We started with the Pathfinder, open and challenges. Pathfinder is dedicated to research to develop the scientific basis to underpin breakthrough technology. We have the possibility to have an open call, totally bottom-up. You can present whatever you want, your disruptive idea for a breakthrough technology. And we have also challenges, top-down project with a title, a topic. Some numbers. This is a very fast comparison between submitted and mail-listed participants in Italy. Pay attention to the fact that we have 13% of ET participants in submitted proposals, and in mail list that is the same as retained for funding, we have 12%. This is a very good results. At the same time, we have a lot of very good percentage of ET coordinator in submitted proposals, and we have a percentage of 14 in mail-listed proposals. This number said that we are good in the Pathfinder, and look also at the contribution of small and medium enterprise in this project. Have in mind that Pathfinder is dedicated essentially to research at that level of technology and maturity. There are also projects in which small and medium enterprises are involved. In retain, this number unfortunately go down. But we go in deep in this comparison with other countries in Europe. You can see from this plot that Italy is the first for submitted proposal in blue, but is the second in retained proposal. Is a very good results. The first place is for Germany, then Italy, then Spain and France. In the box, you can see that also Italy is in the second place as a coordinator of 8 projects. These are very good results for Pathfinder. Again, we can compare in this plot. On the left, you can see the request EU contribution for proposal that are retained for funding. In orange, you can see the number of participation in retaining for funding, the same number that we see in the previous plot. And you can see also in the table on the right, you see very easily that Italy is in the 4th position for the EU contribution and is in the 2nd position for the number of grant. This is a very good results and confirm also the result from the past for the EC Pathfinder pilot. We have a look also to all the results about the Pathfinder challenges 2021. 2021 was the first time that we have this kind of grant, this top-down with specific topic. You see on the left, the challenges are labeled with the numbers 0101, 0102, 0103. You find in the left bottom the title of the different topic. You can see easily in the blue and in gray are the results of all the other countries, the total, and in green, in black, the results for Italy in submitted in green and in black in founded proposal. All the proposal founded are 29, a very good number if you compare to the other. In particular, you see for the challenges 0102, 0103, and 0104. But having in mind this, the first year, these are very good results for Italy. Now we pass to transition. Transition have the same scheme like Pathfinder, but there are some differences. The TRL is higher. You see also in this case, we have open challenges and open and challenges. The challenges are dedicated in 2021 to medical device and to energy storage. You see that the number of participants are very high. And you can see also on the right, the consortia and the solution of mono-beneficiaries, because in transition is possible to present as a consortium, or there is the possibility to participate like a small and medium enterprise or a startup or a spin-off from the university as a single mono-beneficiaries. And you see in this data, we have 33 out of 70 monobeneficiaries. This is due to the fact that this instrument is dedicated not only to the development of the technology, but in particular to grow up the business plan around the disruptive idea. Some data about coordinators and participants, these are very general, but just to show you that in general, coordinators are higher education institutions, university mainly, but inside the consortia, we have a lot of participant type, in particular, private sector. And inside the private sector, we have a lot of small and medium enterprise. Some results about Italy. Unfortunately, for this scheme, we do not have the final results. But if you see in these two plots, Italy, as a coordinator, is present in more than 40 proposals, and as a participant in more than 120. These are is in the first position. We know in aprile, because we follow a lot of these proposals, that at the moment there are some founded transition open that received the letter, but unfortunately we do not have for today all the data. These are very promising data for Italy. Now we pass to the accelerator. The accelerator is dedicated to startup, spin-off, and this instrument has mainly two phases. The first phase is called short, is like act as a filter for the second phase of the accelerator. This is called full proposal. The short is done along all the year. You see for every month, in blue, the go, in orange, the no go, because the evaluation is just go, no go. On the right, you see the specific submitted versus evaluated, and the success rate is around 54%, because in this first phase, the evaluation concentrated on the disruptive idea, not to the business model, okay? Then we can pass to the full proposal of the accelerator. You see in this plot on the left, the total budget contribution, that is the sum, in some cases, of a grant plus equity. On the right, the number of proposals that obtain the funding. In the plot, you see only the first 11 countries. In the table, you have all the countries that received the grant or grant plus equity. You see that, unfortunately, Italy is in the 11th position for the contribution, but also for the number of grants. This is not a desperate situation, but for our experience in aprile, for sure, we have some idea about the weaknesses that are related sometimes to the fact that the idea is not necessarily disruptive, but is very interesting for the market. Sometimes the market strategy could be not very ambitious, like is required for the European Innovation Council. Sometimes the business model is a little bit weak, because we are speaking from startups that are coming from the university. Sometimes the team is too weak because of the same problem, because lacking of figure like market or financial. But the situation, the takeaway messages that I want to do today is, we are very good in the Pathfinder scheme. We perform very well. For the 2021, we are in the second position. That for the transition, we are in very promising position. For the accelerator, we have some problem, but not problem related to technology, but problem to describe better our business model, our idea, or the idea of the business model that is necessary for the European Innovation Council. As a last slide, I want to tell you that in APRE, in particular, the EIC competence team is involved and coordinate a 7-year action that is called Access to EIC. Is a project. You can see the website on the right, and the goal of this project is to share good practice, promote cooperation, but in particular to support all the applicants to the European Innovation Council, all the applicants in all the different schemes. In this plot, just to show you that we have developed a lot of instruments, like, for example, annotated template, fact sheet, pitch deck, annotated pitch deck for the interview, are very useful instruments for researchers that are interested in participating in this scheme. Please, if you are interested, go to the website and write to us, to our email. I finish and I thank you for all the attention.
Thank you very much, Stefania, for the interesting figures given. I'm pretty sure Professor Fosfori from the Management Technology Department of the Bocconi University will further comment on these figures and make some reflection around that. So, please.
Thank you to Politecnico of Torino for inviting me and giving the opportunity to give some thought on the European Innovation Council. And so given the time in the afternoon and given previous presentation, I actually have to fight and to get some energy. So let me start with two examples. Well, one example and one consideration. The first consideration. So if we look at how innovation ecosystem around the world are organized in recent years, decades, is quite different from what happened 20, 30 years ago. So 20, 30 years ago, or 40 years ago, most of the innovation were developed by large corporations with internal R&D lab. They would hire people to do all the phases we have seen before described in previous presentation internally, and would feed the innovation ecosystem with internal innovation from large corporations. So this is just an extreme characterization, but that's what happened in the past. Now, what we see is the innovation ecosystem has changed everywhere. What we have is basically that startups are the originator of early ideas. Large companies tend to then incorporate those ideas and commercialize them. So if we look at how fertile is the market for startup in recent days, that's amazing. Venture capitalists financing these companies. Now, why I'm saying that? Because exactly for deep tech, which are the kind of innovation that the EIC is trying to support, the market for startup is not working too well. I give one example, and this has to do with housekeeping. I don't know if you are using some of these robots for housekeeping, but there is a company in the world which is one of the leaders. It's called iRobot. So iRobot was founded by engineers of MIT in 1990. This company now is a market leader. The first time they made some money was in 2002, so 12 years after the foundation. Now, you can think about this as a product, the robot, that has several problems. It has problem with voice recognition, spatial navigation, problems of machine vision, and problem of interconnectivity. Now, all these problems were technological problems. Lots of uncertainties. And later on, basically what happens is that they receive money from a national agency in the US, from the Department of Defense, to develop robots for military uses. Only 12 years later, they start to commercialize these robots as a product for the consumer. So there were a lot of technological problems long term, and only with support of public money, they could survive, and now has become a company with over 1 billion of sales, so not just market value, but sales. Now, what is the point here is that this is the reason why there is a European Innovation Council, to found those deep tech coming from science, engineering, like Politecnico, but that have long time horizon, patient capital, and often also a lot of market uncertainty. So I think that is another way of justifying this very important program. Now I can move with my presentation. Is basically, this is the team we have. I'm a professor at Bocconi, but also the Italian delegate, so I'm participating to the program committee that defined the working program for this European Innovation Council. And these are the other members of the team: Antonio Carbone, Jose Alessandro, Luca Moretti, Marina Silveri. Now, as has been already explained, so I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but the three components are thought as a process that start from the more basic science, which is typically do in a school like this one, in the engineering school like this one, and is typically done in partnership with other universities, with other research centers, going down to the last program, the accelerator, which is thought mostly for startup, small companies. So these are quite different programs, quite different animals, but what is putting together is this basic kind of flawless connection from science to innovation. Now, let me just go quickly. In this case, I don't want you to focus on the number, but only where they are, I put the arrow. So these are the results for this year, 2021, of Pathfinder. So you see the arrow with on that side, that's good. So on that side is good. So these are the results of Italy in Pathfinder Open, and Politecnico of Torino has got indeed a project here, and very successful, as coordinator. So we are, summary of this, we are doing pretty well in this kind of project. The same you can see in the challenges, we are very on that side. Okay? So these are, as I said, those projects more linked to research done in university. Now, transition, which is a huge opportunity, we are also doing quite well. So among the 42 projects, 6 are coordinated by Italian coordinators, and as was mentioned before by Professor Profumo, 25 coming from ERC proof of concept, 17 from. So why this is an opportunity? Because we are good at the Pathfinder projects, and there is a necessary condition to participate in the transition that you have to be part of either a ERC proof of concept or a Pathfinder. So there is a strong opportunity in this area here. Whereas, as you can see now, the arrow is basically on the other side. So when we look at accelerator, we are talking about funding startups, both grant and equity. We are not doing too well. At least you can say, is this just one bad luck here? You know, it's just 2021. Now, if we look at the data of 2020 and 2019, this was a pilot, so it was an attempt to put the program at full speed. We see similar results. So it's not just luck or bad luck, it's really something that is there in which we are not doing too well on the accelerator. And the financial opportunities were already introduced by Jean-David Malo before. So let me only focus on this consideration, which is important here. If we look at the money available in the last few years, has increased, is becoming really, really a huge program, over 1.5 billion euros a year. But you can also see that the vast majority, at least 2/3 of the money, is going into the accelerator. So we have, this doesn't mean that in absolute terms, also the money for Pathfinder transition, the other 2 legs of the program, are also receiving more money, but proportionally, most of the money in the accelerator, so is where we have to think as a country to improve our shots to get some of this funding. Another point, I'm going to make it very quickly here, is that there are calls that are open, so any kind of program can apply, and there are cores that are challenges. Now, what is the difference here is that this will be explained later on from by the other presenter. In the challenges, it's quite precisely described which kind of project would fit within one challenge. And then I know, for instance, we discussed before that Polytechnic is also now negotiating one of these grants. And so what is the advantage of applying the challenges? If you look at the numbers, the competition is reduced. So for instance, last year, there were twice more applicants in the open rather than the challenges. Obviously, the challenges has to fit with the call, but the competition, at least from the numbers last year, is less aggressive. And so this, as I said, if we look at accelerator, the last bit of it, project could be even bigger than 15 million. So we are talking about a huge amount of money. And this overall, next year, so in 2022, they are granting more than almost 1.2 billion euros in either equity or grant. Okay, most of it is, more than 50% is equity, so it's investment, basically. Okay, so let me just add a few more things on the accelerator. So the accelerator is also giving another opportunity for startup or small companies applying is the seal of excellence, is the recognition that you have been close to receive the grant, but you didn't, which can be used then eventually with national program, if Italy will eventually in the future think about developing one, to receive money from national government. So you have the stamp that you did very well, but didn't get the money, and so there might be opportunity to fund that through national programs. Now, which projects are funded by the accelerator? And here I have a mix of the official data and some research that has been done on this. Okay, so the project that's, these were already shown before, but typically the companies are quite young. So you see the green is basically very young company, and the red is a little bit older, but in general these are very young and quite a small company. Even if in the last 2 years, and this is the important point I want to make, there is a tendency for a little bit bigger, a little bit older company, which is consistent with the idea that there is a shift of the accelerator to put more money on scaling up business rather than incubating those businesses. So it's going to be very difficult if the startup is early on the process to get any money, because this is money that goes for growing and scaling up a company. Now, what we know on studies that have been done on the previous program. So here, the only thing I want to tell you, this is not based on the current program. So the previous program only had grant, so there was no equity, but there has been a study, actually there are 2 studies that look at this. So which company tended to have higher chances to be funded by the accelerator? Well, high growth firms, they had like an increasing number of employees in the previous years. They had a negative correlation with sales, which is consistent with the idea that you have this growth opportunity, but you are still not selling anything. Companies with patents, and they had already some support of VC. Okay? Now, you might finally ask, does it make any good to have money from the accelerator? Again, from a study based on data on the previous program, there are clear benefits, very strong benefits. So this is a very well done study comparing similar companies. So companies that were granted the funding with companies that were very close to get the funding, but they didn't make it. So they were just epsilon below the threshold. Now, what happened? This had an effect on better patents, more assets. So there are positive effects on any indicator of growth. And just to give an idea, the probability to get further funding increased by 3 times after you get the money from the European Innovation Council. So it's really beneficial for those companies that get access to this money. So that's why it's very important to get to it. Let me conclude with 3 quick takeaways. I think that from what I've seen in 1 year being the Italian delegate, challenges are an increasing important. In the budget, they are getting close to 40% of the overall budget. And so there are opportunities there because in a certain sense, challenges are more focused and competition is less intense. Transition also for us as a country is an important opportunity because we are very good in Pathfinder, ERC, also proof of concept. So we have some kind of, we should be able to transform those great ideas into more advanced startup and innovation. And finally, the accelerator is showing there is some weakness in our innovation ecosystem, even if there are, as we have seen before in the presentation of Professor Profumo, some geographical very good ecosystem, but nationally we are still suffering. And but it is a great opportunity to catch up to make the structural investments or decision to improve our position maybe in coming years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Very interesting consideration. Indeed, mobilizing the ecosystem is key for the accelerator. Well, we are now at the moment of analyzing case studies. We had the fortune of having here Dr. Marco Antonio Pantaleo, which is a program manager at the EIC. And we asked him to participate just to give a concrete feeling and flavor of these programs from a proposer's point of view, from a researcher point of view. So, Marco, thank you for being with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, I hope you can hear me better. Yes. Thank you very much, David, for your kind invitation, and to all the organizers, the Polytechnic of Turin, and I hope the slides...
In the meantime, I remind about the Q&A session that is available on the Zoom connection. So any question, I don't see questions so far, please submit it and we will report it to the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm program manager for energy system and green technology together with my colleague Francesco Matteucci, and I will describe a little bit what is the role of program managers in EIC. We are just 2 days ago, we increased the number of program managers. Now we are 8 program managers in different thematic fields, from medtech, health, energy, food, space, and so on, with a clear thematic focus. So we'll briefly introduce what is our role and the ambition to reconcile and combine policy and implementation with the EIC, how we carry out the strategic intelligence activity, which is a key to select topics where we allocate the budget for the top-down calls, examples of our implementation of the portfolio concept with the last Pathfinder challenge call on green hydrogen generation, our proactive management in our green tech portfolios that with Francesco we are developing with some tools available to implement proactive management. And then I will go on quickly to some lessons learned from the last evaluation, how to increase success success rate, and just to reinforce the consideration of Jean-David Malo and Francesco Profumo about the importance to build an innovation ecosystem. So basically we have three key roles. The first one is to carry out strategic intelligence to select topics where to allocate the budget in the top-down call in the yearly work program that we produce on an annual basis, and detail the scope of the call in the so-called topic guide, which is a detailed document where we describe for our applicants the portfolio criteria, so the specific criteria on basis of which we select the project to be funded and implement the portfolio project with some key some considerations, some examples that we'll propose soon after. Then we propose a proactive management, and the ambition is to transfer also a culture of support of our beneficiaries, adding key elements to their ideas, their project, to nurture innovation, to identify most promising projects to be added in our portfolio, and try to facilitate the innovation ecosystem around this project, facilitate networking opportunities, catalyze innovation with serendipity, with different and complementary multidisciplinary research approach. So going from low TRL Pathfinder project to higher TRL one. So trying also to combine different programs and with the ambition to achieve a more ambitious result from a combination of more projects in an approach of portfolio exactly. And then we also try to outreach to the research innovation stakeholders communities, linking our activities to other programs within Horizon Europe, but also with member states funding and innovation support mechanism from ERC, and I will say something just to reinforce the view of Francesco Profumo about the collaboration ERC, EIC, and missions, Horizon mission, and so on. So how we define our strategic intelligence? The guiding principles are to select areas where we have higher innovation potential and recognized industrial interest and market needs. Of course, that are fully aligned with the ambition to reinforce the technological autonomy of the EU and to maximize the economic and societal impact. So with a full alignment with policy targets, but also with synergies and complementarity with other programs that we have at European level. So not doubling and so adding on topics already explored and funded by Pillar 2 further funded, but trying to find niche areas that are particularly promising. This is particularly valid for Pathfinder, and here we focus, as we know, on non-incremental research. And we try to leverage on the vision that we can get from a lot of projects funded, but also projects not funded, that could be useful for us to envisage new promising research routes to produce high-risk, high-value breakthrough research. So that's the reason why we look at ERC funded and not funded project, EIC Pathfinder, not funded but submitted, and maybe not funded for lack of money, but very inspiring project to identify potential topics year by year. And also we have interaction and collaboration with other entities and bodies such as the European Patent Organization, ERC, with their 4 sites, and large interview with scientists. For transition, the main focus is on the projects that are eligible to apply, and that's the reason why here is particularly important the interaction with ERC, because ERC proof of concept are eligible to apply to transition transition. We've seen that most of the successful projects in transition are actually coming from ERC. And so this collaboration is already in place. In particular, my colleague Francesco is developing already activities to link the Marie Curie actions to our funded beneficiaries in EIC. So bridging this link between ERC and ERC, absolutely important. In Accelerator, the selection of topics is for some aspects a bit more complicated. We are trying to investigate the critical mass of youth stakeholders, research and innovators, and also engaging with venture capital and venture corporate to see what are their strategies, what areas they are investing in, and this could inform our selection of top-down calls for the accelerator that have been in the last for this work program and also for the previous one well aligned with the policy target Fit for 55, as you can see, but our ambition is to go a bit more narrow and to define with more details the challenge top-down call also for the accelerator. The calls we are in charge of as a program manager, in particular the two Pathfinder on carbon and dioxide and nitrogen management and valorization, the Pathfinder challenge, and the mid-long-term energy storage. The topic guide, so the detailed description of this call will be released together with the opening of the call in June, deadline in October, but also there are transition challenge on process and system integration of clean energy technologies, where we hope to attract successful projects from ERC proof of concept and Pathfinder. And finally, the challenge on technology for Fit for 55. How we implement this portfolio approach, which is the ambition to define a coherent set of projects aligned with topic guide, with complementary or competing technologies and research approach. This is first experience that we carried out in the Pathfinder Challenge 21 with the evaluation carried out in January this year and results released a few weeks ago, was based on the call on green hydrogen generation, where we had we focused on new technologies to produce hydrogen from renewable energy, entirely based on renewable energy sources, but using non-toxic, non-critical raw materials, systems integrated, and with a specific particular emphasis on circularity and possibility to co-produce hydrogen and other chemicals, raw materials, decarbonized raw materials for other applications. On the basis of exactly of these criteria, well defined in topic guide, we carried out the evaluation process and implemented the portfolio concept, and in other words, together with the evaluation panel, we decided to produce a priority list of projects funded after the first step of evaluation carried out remotely by 3 experts plus a cross-reader external expert. After the evaluation score in the first step, we implemented the portfolio criterion, allocating projects in broader area. In particular, we selected 6 technological areas, and we wanted to address a broad number of technologies which could be complementary and attach the scientific research project from several angles, with focusing on diversification of technologies. So we agreed on these technologies. We allocated project to technologies, and we adjusted in a way the scores against the specific criteria of the portfolio to come to a priority list of projects that will be have been selected for funding, retained for funding. That is a clear novelty in the Commission that so far was relying only on the evaluation of external experts, with no other consideration, with that have the ambition to be more aligned with the strategic direction and the policy direction and the ambition of the call. So this is one key difference and one of the main roles of the program managers, to build a vision for an ambition for the challenge, and select in collaboration with the evaluators project to be funded with criteria that are added to the remote evaluation of the expert. That was so far the only criteria for funding. So what are the specific aims of the proactive management of ongoing projects? Because when we started 1.5 years ago with Francesco, we funded, we funded a lot of projects already funded, and we tried to cluster, group in thematic areas, maximize the collaboration opportunities, and trying to identify the ones that were more promising and where we could catalyze innovation. So we try to follow up from a scientific and technological side projects, trying to support, theoretically even reorient or suspend or terminate, which is something that unlikely happens, but mostly we are focused on the support of projects and the idea to maximize their results, reinforcing the collaboration among them where we see that there could be interactions, stimulate serendipity, and finding new application for promising research, for instance, encouraging to share results and facilitate the establishment of an innovation ecosystem and networking. Also trying to address and overcome legislative bottlenecks, so trying to facilitate the activation, launching of innovation deals, for instance, or, and I will go back to this soon, and also putting, which is a peculiarity of EIC, exploitation at first more than publication, which is, we can say, the main target of ERC and research-based funding. So we try to have a look always at the potential application also in fundamental research project in Pathfinder, and also trying to address and protect to some extent the rights of inventors to do something with their results. It is specifically specified in the legal basis of EIC. We have a number of tools for this and action to be carried out. From one side, we share the evaluation panel for Pathfinder to implement the vision and strategies through the challenge guide and the evaluation board, as I described before. But also we have a package of business accelerator services that we can offer to our beneficiaries, going from the booster grant, ad hoc grant up to of 50 kilo euros up to 3 times during the duration of the project, to carry out specific activities not included in the preview at the beginning in the proposal, but then that come to the attention of the researchers and could be particularly important, interesting to find, for instance, techno-economic analysis of market segments where to apply the research, or other specific activities that are additional and to the first proposal. Fast track to innovation, very important for Pathfinder and transition projects. So a way to access directly to the second step of accelerator for projects that we consider particularly promising and ready for this. Coaching and mentoring focused on specific areas and of the projects. But also we rely on the help of experts, scientific experts or innovation experts, that we engage with them to assess the market uptake and innovation potential of specific projects research, or to produce high-level reports on state of the art and of research innovation, also with the innovation deal assessment and so on. in this regard, we always need experts, which are the evaluators in particular, which are very important to have high quality evaluation of our project in all the 3 programs. And so we encourage all the research and innovation community to be eligible and apply for to be expert for RIA, for EIC, and for the European Commission. We can facilitate the development of innovation deals. I will say something briefly on this regarding to biochar and the possibility to include biochar in offsetting mechanisms to give to this technology a push towards the market. And we support technical due diligence for the equity component of the EIC accelerator. Quickly on our portfolio, so we have a number of portfolios in energy and environment that at the moment totalize about more than 100 projects with a total budget of 350 million euro. And you can see here the allocation of projects in different areas. These are all the Pathfinder and transition projects already funded ongoing, excluding the last Pathfinder challenge on green hydrogen that will compose a specific portfolio, probably where we can add a number of projects already ongoing, well aligned with some projects we have funded, and the ambition is exactly to maximize collaboration opportunities and innovation development here. We see also the allocation of projects to different member states and year by year, but I go quick. Also, we have another portfolio on accelerator, quite different in terms of topics, because we have evidence of a lot of startups, probably on electric vehicles or on ocean energies, a bit different from the research areas that we have in Pathfinder. Of course, we try to facilitate synergies and bring connection there, but at the moment we have a bit of difference in portfolio for transition and for Pathfinder and accelerator. Quick note about the activities that we are carrying out on biochar, thanks also to David and the collaboration that we are establishing on this. This innovation deal is a way to put together main actors, key stakeholders, and inter-service group within the Commission, so a number of DGs, in order to address specific regulatory barriers that, in this case, for instance, could allow to use and to implement biochar technologies as a carbon stock, so nature-based solution to accumulate carbon into the soil. So far, this technology that is the most cost competitive net negative emission technology at large scale has difficulties to be implemented. We have some beneficiaries, some startups that are proposing biochar solution, but cannot propose their technology into the market and be successful because this technology is not allowed to get offsetting allowances to be recognized in the emission trading scheme mechanism. So we see here a potential possibility to include this technology in a mandatory system to reduce CO2 impact, and that's the reason why we are trying to activate this innovation deal. So quick to the conclusion about key factors to increase success rate. For sure, what is very important in any proposal to be fully aligned with the policy background, and so to mention in the proposal the links to the European Union strategies, to the set plan, and in the case of challenge calls, the alignment with topic guide. Then we note that in case of writing up the proposal, they support, in particular for university, but this is also valid for accelerator. I will go back to this in a while. The support from grant office is particularly important to submit proposal without technical error, shortcomings, and complete from a section. Multidisciplinarity is always important, in particular in Pathfinder challenge. We look at it in a very particular way. We really appreciate the effort, the capability of cross-sector contamination. In the case of accelerator, what is particularly important I've seen is, in my experience, is evidence of gender parity, a team with an expertise, a good mix of expertise from CEO, CTO, CFO. So this is particularly important to have a successful proposal. Also, the evidence of a market assessment carried out and analysis of all the competitors. Sometimes we need evidence of a pilot already ready, so the maturity level, but from another side, we don't want to fund companies that are already in the market that basically don't need funding because they are already successful and selling their products. And the idea is to target startups that can really increase their innovation. So, and then try several times. We have evidence that successful company tried 2-3 times before getting funding. So these slides we already know, and I go quickly here, and just to say some few considerations in this final slide about, for instance, where it's clear that we have excellent results in terms of research in Pathfinder and transition, not transferred into innovation. I would say that the consideration of Francesco Profumo before about the innovation ecosystem already in place for at Politecnico Torino and from Fondazione San Paolo is exactly what academia and the innovation should do to increase the access to this accelerator mechanism from Italian side. I would like to say that in my view, we should improve the capability to perform a good pitching for the applicants, and the capability to sell better the ideas. I've seen a number of proposals, very good, but not capable to convince the evaluators and to have good pitching. So probably also a focus also from academia on this will be particularly important. Also organizing events pitch events and competition. I have an experience, a research experience, long-term research experience at Imperial College London, where they are particularly active on this to stimulate entrepreneurial attitude and facilitate the participation of private investors to these pitches and also to receive valuable feedback and focus, but this is also already under the radar of Ministry of Research and academia to facilitate innovation management and PhD programs focused on innovation, so-called scientist entrepreneurs, which seems to be the missing piece in order to enable success of Italy in accelerator. I stop here and ready for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco. We have one question. I will raise it immediately. Just let me pick up some of your points which I wish to remark. You mentioned becoming scientific entrepreneurs, which means academia need to adapt to this transfer of innovation. We have to develop the capacity further to move research into business and financing. Another point I hope has been clear for the audience is the difference between the mode of operation of the European Innovation Council and more conventional for us as Research Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020 projects. In that case, there is deep engagement of program management that develop the content of the calls. While in the Horizon Europe, we have more transfer of activities from the Commission to the agencies. This makes a certain difference in the technical part. So there's one question from Stefania Pesce from Politecnico di Milano. You pick up the point of try again, and that is exactly on that point. I read the question. Stefania says, with reference to EIC transition scheme within the Work Program 2022, is it foreseen here the possibility of one resubmission in the following 12 months from the call deadline for proposal, for the proposals that scored below the threshold in the evaluation, in any of the 3 criteria during the remote evaluation? This applies despite of the eligibility rule. The point that Stefania is raising, is it possible to resubmit even if the original project is not anymore eligible? I understand on the point of view of the topics, probably. Final point, she asked if this applies also for the proposals that receive no-go results at the interview. So it's a bit articulated.
Yeah. It's difficult to, I'm afraid that if the proposal is not anymore in the time windows to get eligibility, that will be quite difficult to resubmit. If not, for sure, not successful proposal never hinders from resubmitting the proposal, in particular in transition. That's for sure. But okay. Then, David, from what you were saying, the ambition that we have is exactly to put together strategy and implementation within the. So we are an agency, an executive agency. Sure. The first one, the only one that is writing its work program. So yeah. Selecting the challenge, which is something that usually the DGs does, but without proper control of what is funded at the end, that is fully exactly. Or not aligned with the ambition of the challenge at the beginning. I think that this is one of the key aims that we have.
Okay, I think, but I cannot see, there's a further question in the chat. But I don't see if you, okay, good, thanks. In the Pathfinder Open Challenge, what type of consortia are eligible and most successful? Is it possible to have a US university as partner? Is it mandatory to have SME? Can this be outside of the EU?
Not mandatory to have a SMIs, and probably could, US could be, but the inside, but not funded. So
yeah, participating but not being funded with European money. Yeah.
And not be funded.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I don't see other questions so far. Just wait a second if there are further. Otherwise, unless panelists have comments to the presentation, I don't know if you have any. I give you the floor. There's another one. Let me just wait a second to see if I can read it. If you can copy on the chat, because I don't see this. You can, because Q&A would be supposed to be the instrument for asking questions, but in the chat I don't see this. Yeah, thanks. Do PM chairs also Pathfinder Open evaluation, or no. Just the Pathfinder Challenges evaluation?
No, only Pathfinder Challenge. In Pathfinder Open, we just see project funded, and we include those project funded in our portfolios. But unless it's specifically required, at the moment we are not engaged with the open one in the evaluation.
Okay, thank you very much. There are no further questions. Oh, well, that's one. Are you able to bring in EIC similar program as the US Eic program? I don't know the Eic
Venture Studio, Venture Builders. Yes, we are quite active on this, in particular the transition unit. And I could reply with more details on this maybe later on. But yes,
okay, you can address this to me and I forward this.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from the room? No. Fine. I think we're now ready for the conclusions and some, comments on what has been presented today. I'm sure Dr. Liberali has many, so we're glad to hear.
Yeah. Good evening to everybody. Thanks to David, first of all, of organizing this event, and to Francesco Profumo for his commitment to the European Innovation Council, as well as to Andrea, because I think it's quite important that all of us work together to try to improve the shortfalls that we have to say exist in the implementation and not in the participation, but in the success of Italy in some part of the European Innovation Council actions. I mean, it's clear from the today presentation that were really interesting and I would say full comprehensive. I have to say that I learned a lot today listening to all the presentation, that Italy has to improve, not on all the European Innovation EIC actions, but just in one, in the accelerator. In the accelerator one, where our success rate is incredibly low. In relative term and in absolute term. We are between the countries that send more proposals, some hundreds, and no one except few pass to the second stage. And that is the main problem we have to face. And we have to understand why. And I think that today there were a lot of answers from this point of view. Is European Innovation Council and action from the past. I mean, European Innovation Council take over from the small and medium companies' actions and so on and so forth, and built on that, but has completely changed the way they work, and we have seen from the presentation how different is the way in which they work, how they integrate everything. And the fundamental ideas, I don't know if correct, right or not. Personally, I have some doubt, but that is my personal feeling. That we have to build, help to build, and to have the emergence of the unicorn or European unicorns. So a part of that and the main resources go toward this goal. And in Italy, we are probably globally, not in individual cases, lagging behind that. We have not yet developed the market instruments that go along with the companies to bring them on the market. And it's clear from the presentation, from the success, from what Jean-David Malo told us, that to be successful, a company, to be successful in the accelerator, to get equities, must be evaluated by the market. So in a way, private investors small venture capital companies or business angels must be present in the company. And the point is that when you go there, you must have a very strong business plan. You must have prototypes. You must have, Jean-David told TRL 5, 6. I personally think it's too low. You must go for accelerator to TRL 7, 8. At that moment, you have exactly the good instruments with a good management. And in the evaluation, they evaluate the management. It's not just an inventor. It's not just somebody that has a good idea. He's a manager. He or she must be a manager, must be an inventor, but a manager. And they have to show that they're able to manage a future company. They must have a solid business plan, and a view where to go in 10 years or in some years. If we don't have this, we will never succeed. And personally, I would push companies that are not sure from this point of view not to send a proposal. It's just throw away money. And at this phase, to throw away money to construct a proposal is not the best thing you can do. So we have to create in Italy the way in helping the market to express what in reality exists. But just they don't go there. They look for other resources. And that is the role of the ecosystems. And we have listened to Professor Profumo's presentation. And the ecosystem that Compagnia di San Paolo was able to construct with the help of Polytechnic, with the help of a lot of actors here in Turin. That is the reality. That must be the main actors that can help Italy to express the best proposal at European level. And once we have expressed this proposal at European level, of course, we reduce the risk for Italian companies, including financial companies. So it's quite crucial that we arrive to create this link between ecosystem, financial systems that are behind the ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem, and our proposal in Brussels for the accelerator part. For the other part, it's clear. We are good. We know that we are good. We must help the system to stay at this level and even improve, because you can be good, but you can always improve. And in a way, we have to through these instruments, increase the number of good proposals, how to build new ideas in the system, in the ecosystem, to build to such a level where you can apply for an accelerator grant. That is really the problem we are facing today in Italy. And we have not to discuss about, we have just to try to find the solution. And I'm sure that working with the local ecosystem, let's start with Torino, let's start with Compagnia di San Paolo. There are others in Italy that can after be aggregated. With international dimensions, why not with the European Investment Bank, with really the main actor in this field, to build the Italian system, the Italian help to the good Italian startup, the real Italian startup, to apply for and to be successful at European level. And that is even more crucial now, and I would conclude on that. now that we have the PNRR. Why I say that? Because personally, and I can tell you that Minister Messa is share this concern, today in Italy, everything, universities, companies, research institutions, just think about PNRR. Easy money, easier than European money, of course. A lot of easier money at Italian level that will finish in 2 years, maximum 3 years. And if we lose now the connection at European level, that is the money for the future, and we will not construct the system for the future to build for the future funding at European level when the PNRR will not be there, we will out of the system. We will have some good money now, and after we will out of the system. So it's quite crucial, and that is the message I think is important that all of us pass through, that we have to go to build the future thanks to the PNRR money. Thanks to that, build the future for the European and international money that we can have, because we can build with this money the infrastructure, the system, the connection, the platform that will permit to be really competitive at the European level. And I think the accelerator is really the first big good case to test that altogether. That is a little bit the message, what I get from this afternoon discussion that really was interesting, full of information, full of nice information, full of important informations. And we have to repeat that, we have to go along, and we have to work closely together. That is really what I think we need. Thank you very much.
Thanks really a lot. I could not agree more. And well, probably we will need also, I know Professor Profumo knows it very well, some support to develop this business plan to this man. You have a question? Oh, okay. Well, please, if you can come here on the microphone, otherwise the person remote cannot hear you. No, I was just saying that the moving from research to the accelerator requires different skills, probably integration with other competencies from other universities, a manager, as you said. And so maybe we should elaborate also some kind of support for those having research done with good results to move into another field they are not very familiar. But talk about myself. So,
it's clear.
Yeah, I don't see. Please, Dr. De Santis is also asking the floor for a comment or a question.
Thank you, David. Just a very short question or even comments. First of all, thank you very much, David. I learned a lot myself too, and I think it was very interesting to see the situation now in Italy. And thanks a lot to all the speakers, because I think that you are going ahead with a really difficult challenge, no? To shake the Italian system, to make it, let's say, more modern and definitely more proactive in this overall European context. My reflection when you, Raffaele, said that Italy is very good in putting forward the European Council many proposals for innovation or for this kind of last step, but very little, very low success rate. So first of all, I think it's important that the Italian government knows how to expand the successful, positive experience here in Torino with this ecosystem. So how to connect better this ecosystem, which cannot be left alone as a kind of extraordinary pilot plan or pilot project, but should be partially replicated somewhere else. But second, I just wonder, Is it maybe possible, this low successful rate, because many projects, many ideas, however, not a systemic approach, in the sense it's not sufficient to have the financial system, the investors, the scientific competence. You do need to present this proposal also with the 360 degrees approach, so including also the social aspect, also including this kind of usually not considered dimension, so the so-called SDG, that some proposals do fail, not because they do not have a robust return of investment, business case, exit policy, they do have it. But they have totally ignored some other aspects of the proposals that are now fundamental for the European decision makers, which means, again, ethics, social, this type of democracy. So I wonder whether maybe also a kind of education towards our proposals, towards our society in Italy could be very beneficial, because I see sometimes very good ideas, but very focused, very like silos ideas, instead of being very being very transversal, including different sectors that are now consumers, people engagement. Sometimes they're totally ignored. I just wonder, because as you know, I do remember very well, these were most of the proposals coming from the Italian side. So maybe from one side to connect better Torino, but also to make an education, how the next generation of our project must be more holistic. And this is something which I think here in the Polytechnic we are trying to do, so to consider not just the technical aspect, but all the other dimensions that are now absolutely fundamental in any kind of acceptability for the people. Thank you.
Thanks, Giovanni. Indeed, this is a priority here. We develop Polito for Impact, and the impact of research on all the society is, a priority. I don't know if you want to reply also.
Yes, Giovanni, thank you very much. I fully agree with you on a global level, and we know each other since a long time at European level, so it's, we are discussing always together. But having said that, of course, you know very well the system from inside. The only point is, so I fully agree with you on this integration, and Italy, I think from the university should change. I hope that we will be able to reduce the 360 settori scientifici disciplinari, because that is the end of the history. I mean, either we are able to cut that or we will be lost. But having said that, I fully agree with you on general aspect. In the European Innovation Council, probably in the accelerator, probably this part, this integration is less important, but we will work on that, and I fully agree. Less important just because there, what is asked are proposals that has a market behind. Yes. And if you want to have a market, I mean, they look at the market, and either you are able to construct a proposal that has a market. That means integration of the social aspect of the business plan and everything, or you will never be able. And normally, a financial system that takes the risk of a startup, evaluate that. So in a way, must be integrated by the process. So I fully agree with you. We have to educate people. We have to better explain that is a global horizontal issues on all our European participation, because I fully agree with Giovanni. On the European Innovation Council, I think that that is, in a way, should be, in a way, built in already at the beginning, because you need to present a strong case, a strong business plan, and if you don't build that, you will never have a strong business plan. That is...
Okay, thank you very much.
Poi ne parliamo.
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe I can say something more. Yeah, if you remember, when we started the process for the ERC, we did first a strong education for people. And we were talking about research. In this case, we don't talk about research. We talk about innovation. Innovation is how to get the knowledge that is becoming by research and get to the market for this. Then in the mindset of a professor, researchers, is not the way to think about it. Then I think we needed to sit around the table to understand what we needed to do in this alignment. First of all, I'm sure that we need to start a process of capacity building for some of the researchers, some of the professors, because not all these people, they are able to think that the final output is just a paper. Sure. But has to be something more, because you can get the best results, but if there is no market, it's not good for us. This is the first point. The second point is that in order to be successful from this point of view, you needed to have not only people coming from academia, but people coming from business. And Andrea is able to help us from this point of view. Because most of the people for the second leg, you know that there is this long discussion related first leg and second leg, in the sense that after the selection, what the people from Eic found is that about 70% of the eligible company, they cannot get equity within 36 months. This means it's too long term, it's too long time. Then what is necessary to have people inside the team that is people looking for the business and from the financial point of view is a completely different way to think. Then it is difficult, it's not easy. But if we start from scratch, we need really to boost up the knowledge from the business point of view, because in the other way we cannot get any results from this side. Maybe Andrea can say something more in this direction.
So just maybe repeating the same point in a different way, but I think that I'm not sure that it's basically the best strategy would be really to transform the scientists, the researchers, which are doing their job in the perfect way, into businessmen. So I think that it would be to source these resources either from outside or, as I've seen, for instance, was mentioned before, Imperial College, most of, outside Italy, most of the engineering schools, they have also a business school. And so they have an incubator in which they put together the scientific skills with the business skills, and then they have already the team that is going to run the startup. Because I think that transforming a scientist into a businessman, it's kind of difficult. At the margin, some can do it, but that's a very small number of people that...
Yeah, I agree with you. And what I was saying, that we needed to have teams where we have a hybrid knowledge. This means the scientific from point of view, the business from the other, financial from the others. It's much more complex than to have just a group only for research. In this case, you need really to have a larger perimeters. And it's not the best way is just to try to transform one good researcher in a good businessman. Maybe it's much better to put together different people with a different experience and origin. The other way, it's too difficult.
Yeah, and if I may add, I mean, also in our small experience of this project we are negotiating, we engaged since the very early stage. Here we have the incubator, you know, I3P. Professor Sciolata was here before. Exactly for that. I mean, to have someone looking into the business part. Scientists normally fall in love with their research, so they're absolutely not to be converted into a businessman. They're not the right person, I think. And that is also one of the main messages I think we are conveying to the audience. We've been almost 150 people in average connected today, you know, a bit less before we were more, but so there was a good audience, and I think this was at the very end the reason of organizing this workshop, to convey this kind of message, and in the long term to try to improve the participation to the higher level phases of accelerator. So I think we're well in time, but the day was very dense of information and discussion. I wish to thank again the Department of Research at Polytechnic of Turin, ARIN, for the support, for organizing this, and look forward to seeing you sometime soon in another occasion. Thank you again for being here or connected. Goodbye.